What's up and welcome back to Kinda Funny's The Last of Us Breakdown. Of course, I'm Tim Gettys and I am joined by Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Bless. And making his return to the Kinda Funny stage for the first time in over a week. I'm sure there's a lot of pent-up energy and emotion in Greg Miller ready to pop out. It's the one and only Greg Miller.
Hello, Tim.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Very good. Very
Ready to talk about some Last of Us?
Oh, yeah.
Endure and Survive?
We're going to have a great day together. Me and you, 3 shows today. No. We have Last of Us Screencast. Then after that, we got Games Daily.
No.
At the end of the day, KF Podcast.
Wow.
I don't know which one's going to be best, but I think we're going up from here. Shooting star, Greg.
Be completely unhinged by the Kinda Funny podcast. That's the one you want to check out. Patreon.com/KindaFunny. Does it involve some of you dying? It does.
You keep saying this.
I don't like that part.
And I don't know if that's legal to say.
He really is the Last of Us. You know, that's what it all comes down to. Of course, guys, this is the Kinda Funny.
Tomato. Boo!
It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. Maybe you should get fucking familiar, okay? You know where you can get familiar? YouTube.com/KindaFunny.
How are you trying to flip that on us? That was also terrible.
And roosterteeth.com as a video. But if you want to get it as a podcast, search your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny Screencast, and we will be right there for you. If you want to get the show ad-free, though, you got to go to patreon.com/KindaFunny. Just like our Patreon producers, Trent Berry, James Hastings, Colin Huguenel, Casey Andrew, Nathan Lamoth, and Trent Berry again. And I appreciate you so much for being there.
double berries.
The double berries, baby. Oops, all berries. Oh, wow. Come on.
That's great.
I did it, everyone. It's great. We're going to have such a good time today. Little housekeeping for you. We've been doing a lot of really cool stuff over on youtube.com/KindaFunny, specifically on the in-review side of things. We have posted now our Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania in review you can check out. And just going live earlier today, Creed 1 in review. That's right. We're ranking, reviewing, and recapping the Creed movies leading into Creed 3 in just a few weeks. It's major season, everybody, and I can't wait to be even bigger part of it than I am right now. Bless.
I like that.
Give me the taste and the teases here. What was the general consensus on Ant-Man and the Wasp?
It's a little lower on the lower.
Lower? Good. Okay.
Yeah. Not bad. Just
I never say bad.
It's fine.
It's weird.
Okay.
You should check out our interview or
I won't hear all
spoiler-free
about it, so I
review.
will go see.
Or the spoiler-free review. Anyways, speaking of spoiler-free, we're going to talk right now, spoiler-free, really top level, real fast about what we thought about this episode. Episode 6 of The Last of Us on HBO. And then we're going to get into full spoilers for the entire Last of Us series, both games, DLC, everything. So if you don't want to be a part
American
of that,
Dreams.
I'm telling that, making it extremely clear right now. Okay, everybody? Especially you. See you listening.
Trent Berry. Twice.
Trent Berry. Exactly. What do you think of this, Greg Miller?
Well, I didn't get to talk about last week's episode either, of course.
All right,
So
want to go start?
No,
there?
I just think, man, I think both these episodes have been stellar. And I think this one especially. We're spoiler free and I'm very loose. You know what I mean? I'll let you know, guys. All right, the screws aren't on tight anymore. So like, but it's like teared up, thought, rode the emotional roller coaster a few times. Have some thoughts and opinions about Joel and Ellie, and I want to bring that to the table and talk to some of you, including Amarosa. Saw you in the chat out there.
Jelly. We call him Jelly here.
Do we call him Jelly now? Shit, fuck. Is that real? Did that happen while I was gone? Did you let that happen?
Oh, yeah, that happened.
God
that
damn,
happened.
Shit, fuck.
I
Okay, cool.
missed this.
But this is another great episode. And, again, I think it's so shocking, these last 2 episodes. If you're Neil Druckmann and you're sitting there watching this on TV, you must think, I'm just the coolest motherfucker alive. You know what I mean? Of like how little they change certain things. Like so many shots and scenes being like shot for shot, recreation, line for line. Like, this is so fucking cool. The show continues to be fantastic. I've been all in on these 2 episodes.
Hell yeah. Bless, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like this is the episode where I feel like Pedro Pascal saw what they did with the Bill and Frank episode, saw what they did with other episodes, and was like,
"Fuck this up! I gotta get that there. They're not talking about me. They're not talking about me, Pedro Pascal."
He was like, "I got something to prove.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
tired of letting y'all outshine me in this show." And we really brought it this episode. I thought Pedro Pascal really went for it. I would say even one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Pedro Pascal performance of all time is in this episode. PPP. Yeah, he absolutely.
You saw him in Wonder Woman, though, right?
I did see him in Wonder Woman.
In this, he was good.
Yeah, exactly.
But he could be better.
That's a Wonder Woman.
That's a good one.
84.
You're what? 2 for 4? 2 for 4? Hey. But yeah, I thought this episode was absolutely fantastic. I like how we talk about every week the ways in which they adapt the game, right? And the things that they add and the things that they omit. I thought those are pretty interesting, but good balance in terms of things they kept and things that they didn't keep. We'll talk about it in spoilers, but there are things where I'm like, oh yeah, you did this way better in the show than in the game in a way that I think is going to make season 1, season 2, and however long they go feel cohesive as a whole. But there's a few things from the game that I missed a little bit, even though I understand why they took those out. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic episode.
We still harping on him not hanging upside down ever?
I'm so mad. When he's gonna hang upside down?
I mean, hey man, it's crazy they didn't do that. I am shocked to this day. But I also don't think that we are out of the clear yet. I actually do. I don't think there's anywhere that could happen. Although it could happen in David's place. You
Sure,
never know.
yeah, I know spoilers.
Why the fuck do we do this shit? So, I want to talk about this episode because I think it's the most quotable episode that we've had thus far in a show that has just been instantly quotable since day one. Every single episode has surprised me in some different way, and I continue to absolutely love the show. I think that the relationship between the two characters is like just as special as it was in the game, just in a totally different way. And I love that I feel like you can listen to any episode of our recaps of these and there's similar praise and similar vibes to it, but they just keep impressing us in different ways and doing different things, nailing different things where I'm like, damn, cool. They really got this stuff down.
Damn.
I have some criticism on the spoiler side of things. So I want to get there as soon as possible. Y'all ready to do that?
Yeah.
It's spoiler time, everybody.
Who you want to criticize? Who are we criticizing? Who are we swinging on?
Who you mad at?
What's up?
Who you mad at?
It's not so much that. It's just that I do. If I had a criticism of, and again, full spoilers from here on out, everybody.
For everything Last of Us
For
ever.
everything Last of Us, period. I understand how the ending with the university thing was as compact as it was, because in the game, when you really think about the things that happen at the university, it's pretty much what they showed here in terms of this, then this, then this. And I liked the surprise factor of how quick it happened. Like, we played the game. We know what's going to go down here. The kind of like, not fake out, but the setup of the panic attacks earlier, it's like, oh, are they going to have him have a heart attack or something instead of getting stabbed, and like she has to deal with that. So I like that I was kind of on the edge of my seat. And when it happened, I just didn't expect it that quick. I thought, oh, at least they're going to go in. At least there's going to be like more action here. So I liked the take me by surprise factor of it all. But then what I didn't like is the sense of direction that they always seem to have. Like, I feel like in the game, I believed Joel and Ellie understanding why they're going from point A to point B a bit more. In this one, it does kind of seem now, like I've written it off a little bit in the last couple episodes. It's like, okay, cool, they get this place, and then somebody tells them to go there, and they do that. But like last week, it was like, all right, cool, they just got to go to Wyoming and find Tommy. That's wild. Like, think about being like, hey, you got to go to California and find Greg Miller. It's like, that's very, 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 very difficult. And like, sure, they have information to get where they need to go. And I'm okay with that. But then in this episode, for them to get to the the university, and it'd be so cool. And the set design was incredible. I can't believe how much they nailed that, as well as the many other set designs in this. And the monkeys, all that stuff was great. But the sense of abandonment of the place and like the urgency of like, oh shit, the people that are supposed to be here, the end of our journey, they're not here. I didn't get that feeling at all. Them walking up and seeing a map on a whiteboard or whatever and being like, oh,
Salt Lake City.
It just didn't, like, it felt very, very like, oh wow, that's how they know where to go next. Like, it felt very easy to me in a way that I would have much rather get a little bit more them trying to put some things together and like explain a story that makes sense for them to be motivated to leave.
Interesting. I didn't have that complaint for it. In terms of Wyoming being big or whatever, I found it helpful and interesting that, in the 3-month gap between the episodes, they've gone to those other cities, right? When they show up on the porch of the Native Americans' house there, which is just a great scene. It's fucking awesome. Great actors, both of them. I know the man I've seen in a million different things. He's always like a character actor, almost always a cop, I feel like. But it doesn't matter. He's great, and I don't know much about the woman, but she was fantastic too. Anyways, they have that conversation, right, of like, You've been out there. Yeah, we've been to, and he mentions a bunch of Wyoming cities I don't remember. Or Ellie mentions a bunch, and like, yeah, they're all overrun. They're all infected. So like, in those 3 months, they did ping pong around trying to find something else. They just stumbled into this by accident. For me, it still worked fine. I could have gone for more of and I understand it's happening fast, but more of a, fuck, what the fuck? God damn it, yada yada. Like, our hopes were on this. It didn't seem like their hopes were on it, right? It seemed like they got there. Oh shit, well, this thing is all pointing to Salt Lake City, so I guess we're going to Salt Lake City next.
Yeah, for me, it felt like they were following clues, right? I think by the time they got to that cabin in the middle of nowhere and they start talking about how, yeah, everything west of here, like it's death over there. Like, don't go over there. You're not gonna come back, right? I think that being the key of, all right, let's check out what's over there, and that then leading them to Tommy's place, and then Tommy and his crew talking about how, yeah, like rumors are even. Bad rumors don't necessarily mean that we're bad, right? Like
bad reputation doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Exactly, right? Being able to communicate that is a way of being like, hey, we stay hidden and we stay scary because that is what keeps us safe. For me, it helps it make sense. But I agree a bit in terms of university. Like I felt that could have been fleshed out even more. And for me, it was more so even the way that it ended, right? In the way that Joel was incapacitated. That's one of the few things this episode where I was like, oh man, I think I prefer the game way more, just because, here it was. They're walking through, seeing the monkeys, getting to the where the lab was, seeing that people pieced out, looking at the map real quick and being like, oh, okay, right here, like this is where they go. And then you have about 4 or 5 hunters come through. I understand why they compacted in this way, because it is TV. It is them trying to get through everything. And there's 3 episodes left, and you can pretty much pinpoint what each of those episodes are going to be. And so I understand how you get to the end of here by this episode. But, like both a compliment to this episode and maybe a small complaint, 0 infected, which I think is powerful in the way that, hey, we have this show that is Last of Us, that is, post-apocalyptic, that has all these infected, has all this stuff, but every single episode, it's not The Walking Dead, right? Every episode doesn't have to have a zombie or an infector or a clicker or whatever, right? We're able to tell a heartfelt story without that stuff, but at the same time, I think for me, the action part of the show was a little bit lacking toward the end there, and I think maybe it could have been enhanced if they did have like
him swing upside down or something.
Him swinging upside down, or maybe in University in the game there is a part where there are the stalkers and maybe like a bloater where like Joel falls and then like you have to deal with those. I think maybe one of those moments could have helped add in a bit more tension toward the end, because University to me felt fast. Very quick.
Yeah, this episode felt fast, where it was the start of it in getting to Jackson, I was like, okay, cool. And like, I thought the reunition, seeing Tommy and Joel reunite, that's where I teared up. I thought that was so well done. Getting there, it was like, okay, cool. And I think at some point we paused to go to the bathroom, and it was one of those like, oh shit, this is a great episode of television. Oh shit. And I looked at I'm like, oh, they're gonna go to university today. I wasn't expecting that necessarily, right? And then I looked at like episode titles, like, oh, well, Left Behind's next week, so I should have totally expected that to be that case. But this is one where I felt like, man, this is happening fast. Which brings me, ladies and gentlemen, to the chat live right now, watching as we recorded on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, just like you could be 9 a.m. each and every Monday morning. Oh, Amo Rosso says, the amount of times I think, quote, I actually like this more than the game while watching the show is insane. Never would have expected it. The show's fantastic. I'm having a great time. There are definitely things about it I think I like more here or there, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But something I found myself in this episode, again, which I love and I'm glad it's different. I don't feel I am all in on Joel and Ellie being besties, father and daughter, yada, yada, yada. I think they're building it in a different way. You know what I mean? There's a lot of great dialogue and exchanges between Joel and Tommy, Joel and Ellie and Maria that like are laying the groundwork, but to be this deep into it, even though in the game I do remember when we rode up to the university and had the exact same conversation about football and what the rules were. I remember being like, oh, that's so cute. They're actually being father and daughter. It was a bigger payoff for me in the game than it's been in the show. And I don't know, as somebody who prefers to play video games, if it's just me not being fair and I should be grading on a curve, because of course I was Joel in the game. I was doing all these things. I was protecting Ellie. There were the more little conversations that here and there that I was in it with. Like, I don't feel like, not to get over dramatic about it, but like I lived that story kind of thing where it's like, here I am watching, things are happening in between. They're having fun conversations. It's always like, the banter between Joel and Ellie, especially when they get to Jackson or on the way over to Jackson, about wanting to hunt and wanting to shoot. Damn, you're no Will Livingston. And before you ask, I don't know how they work. Like, that's all really cute and fun, but I'm still not buying in of like, he had softened so much that he like loves her. And I think they're showing that he loves her and he's telling it. And when he breaks down to Tommy fucking, again, back to your point about like, he saw if you're an audio listener, back to Blessing's point about, yeah, man, the Bill and Frank episode have gone to these new heights. And so like the scene between Tommy and Joel, right, in the cobbler, like that is like legitimately like Pedro Pascal, like I'll fucking outact every one of you motherfuckers, right? Yeah. Where he's like, I'm failing in the dream. I don't know what it is, but I wake up without a piece of me. It's like, oh fuck. Like,
that's why that's what starts to make me believe it more. I think them adding a bit more depth to Joel in this episode, between the panic attacks and between his whole conversation with Tommy, talking about I'm failing in my sleep, right? I think they're leaning more on what happened between him and Sarah than purely between on him and Ellie's relationship, because in the game you have way more time, right? In the game there are so many scenes where it is just Joel and Ellie, because you are walking with them, you're getting into combat encounters, you're doing all this stuff, and by this point in the game you're talking about maybe 9 or 10 hours into it, whereas in the show we're only on episode 6, and we only had one episode that was just Joel and Ellie chilling, right? And that was the episode where they first get to Kansas City.
They're fishing,
chilling together, but adventuring together. Because in the first episode, right, kicks it off. The second episode is them and Tess. Third episode, Bill and Frank, right? It wasn't until the fourth episode where we got that, and then even since then, we got Sam and Henry, and now we're here. And so I don't think they've had enough time in the show to build that bond just between them, but I think they are leaning way more on, hey, Joel feels this way because he doesn't want to fail again. Like, he is more upset at himself as opposed to, I love Ellie, this is my daughter, and I don't want to lose this girl. I think he's more so thinking about the mission, how he doesn't want to fail the mission, along with he doesn't want to fail.
It's all tied up together.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciated more, I guess, in Last of Us Part 1, the game, where you get separated, right? Tommy runs off with Ellie, you run off with Maria as Joel, whatever. All hell breaks loose. You're trying to get the dam restarted or whatever. But when you have that reunion scene, and we get it from over Tommy's shoulder, basically, as he talks to Maria, and he turns around, and it's Joel, but to Ellie, but across the room. Are you okay? Were you bit? No, but this one. And Ellie's excitedly talking to him, and he's excitedly listening. I remember that scene being like, they're so good together. I love it. And this is, again, to your point, a different thing. And I'm very, very, as someone who, for the last 10 years, give or take, right, has stood on this hill of Joel's the bad guy, yada, yada, blah, blah, the way Last of Us Part 1 ends, right? They are putting so much into this pot already, so many ingredients, so many conversations, so many little conversations, that I'm going to be very fascinated to see what I think of Joel at the end of this, how they frame this HBO
I feel like
show.
they did, right? They set it up that he is the bad guy. He's going to be the bad guy, but that's being a bad guy is kind of just par for the course, right? I think they did that last week with Henry's character, explicitly saying that to him before he dies, right?
Well, yeah, and they've done so much of what would you sacrifice to save one person, and yada yada yada. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They've had the conversations of for me with Last of Us Part 1, the game, right? It was always the conversation of and I think even on the spoiler cast we did on Beyond, Neil said this, right? That Ellie wanted this. She would want to give her life for it. And the problem with the game gets fishy is I don't know why the Fireflies go 1 to fucking 1,000,000 rather than just sit them down, explain the procedure, and you have to die. And then have it be Ellie say, no, I don't want to give up my life, whatever. And then they'd be like, well, too bad. Then they're bad guys, and I understand how we escalate. You know what I mean? But then even in Last of Us Part 2, right, Ellie's like, my life could have fucking mattered. You know what I mean? For the Ellie we got in Part 1, I had enough conversations with and choices made by her that I fully believe she wanted to give her life for it. And that's why I think Joel was the bad guy, for robbing her of it, not even robbing the world. People always want to throw back in my face, well, how are you going to distribute this? And you're that's not even the point of this. It's what Ellie wanted to do with her life that I feel he took away from her. And
I love with that in this episode, even the beginning of it, where she's asking about how the dam makes electricity, which is such a little great bit. But her just being like, you could have made something up, I'd believe you. And I just love that later in the episode, we see he jokes about the contractor and them being cool or whatever. And she just believes it. And I like that, to me, is the seeds towards what you're talking about here, about she is trusting him, and if he lies to her, that's extra.
And what's going to be fascinating is so far with Bella, and her performance and her Ellie, I don't have it in my head that this Ellie wants to give up her life for this. I don't get that vibe from her.
See, I'm totally on the opposite sides of you guys, and I love the game so freaking much. To me, it's comparing two apples that I love a lot. Okay,
God, you love apples.
I just fucking love.
You love berries more, but you love apples.
It's Trent Berry and Trent Berry, But to me, I feel with the video game storytelling for cinematic story games, it's a breadth of content as opposed to with movies and TV, it's the depth of content. I'm talking about the highest quality on both sides. So when it comes to The Last of Us on PlayStation, it is the little tiny moments, is the bits of dialogue that as you're walking, something's happening, as you're reloading a quip made or something. And quip, not necessarily in the Nathan Drake way, but even just a line of dialogue, expressing the connection between the characters or their emotional state and all that stuff. Whereas in this, I feel like we're allowed to get deeper into Pedro Pascal's Joel and understand who he is, what makes him tick, his relationship with others that, like you guys were saying, connects to Ellie. But I think when we get like this Ellie, her trying to help Sam and like actually like doing the blood thing, like to me, that is the first sign of her wanting to be the cure, that she would be the same conclusion that the game Ellie gets to. But I think that they're just getting there in a different way. And I think that because the show is real people, it's always going to be different than playing a video game.
Sure.
You add yourself with the interactivity and all of that stuff. Like it's just live action has a different weight to it. And with that, I think that we see these characters doing things. The action is never as heightened. There aren't ever as many people, as many zombies, as many bullets, as many anything.
Yeah.
Because it is every single encounter is way more heightened tension where, yeah, he can just get stabbed by a baseball bat accidentally. And that's just as impactful as him dramatically falling 3,000 feet down onto shrapnel or whatever the fuck it is.
I still would have heard him falling down from the second floor.
Yeah, because it's cool and all that stuff, but I just feel like there's still like we get there and like the show is a lot more grounded in that way because they're trying to focus on the characters and like the impact that these are just humans, they're not superhumans, and they're not a video game character that is also you as an avatar, all that stuff. And I feel like they're just doing a better job in the show. Not better, it's just it's better in terms of the character depths of making them their own characters. And in this world, in this real life version of The Last of Us world that we're seeing on HBO, I feel like between Joel and Ellie, what a father-daughter relationship looks like isn't what we think of as father-daughter relationships. It's a father-daughter relationship in the Last of Us world. I think that they're showing that extremely well, especially because the show can have flashbacks. The show can show Sarah literally and like as the Christmas tree's there and him almost see her and all that stuff. And like the game doesn't do things like that. And I think that to me is what deepens their connection and how he sees her.
Yeah, I think Joel's an interesting place because I do believe in him doing what he's probably going to do in the last episode, right? Like taking out the doctors and everybody to save Ellie. I think this episode did a good job of framing that, of being like, hey, this is a man who's hurt. This is a man who's lost somebody before. And this is a man who does not want to lose somebody in the same way again, even though at times it doesn't feel like they have that connection. I think by the time we get there, I think they will. But then also right now, for his focus on the mission and his focus on not wanting to lose somebody else, I do believe that with him. But I also don't believe that he's a bad guy, to Greg's point a bit, right? Where, you know, like earlier in the episode, they have this scene where he's talking to the couple in the cabin and he's like, all right, show me on the map where this thing is, and it better be the same as your
telling
wife.
the truth?
Yeah, like you're
telling me the truth?
I love that they referenced it, but
you made him soup?
I love that they referenced that, but it wasn't as brutal, right? Like Joel was never going to shoot those people. Like Joel was
they're
never
good people, right? Or at least that's the assumption, yeah.
Yeah, and
when we get to David's, trying to find out where they are, then we'll see what he does.
And that's what I'm hoping is the turn for like how we perceive the roles of good versus bad in this world where everybody's just bad. I want to see that in this next episode, or in, I guess, 2 episodes from now, probably, where it is him doing the same thing and him being like, all right, now I'm gonna smash your head in because you guys are hurting Ellie, right? Like, I want to see that version of Joel. So far, I feel like we've only heard about that version of Joel. He's talked about killing people in the past. He's talked about what him and Tommy did. I think seeing it would help frame that idea a bit more.
Well, that'll be
in this world where they really want to drill that home of, hey, everybody can be bad in this world.
And I think that's what they're building to right now with the conversations he keeps having and the dreams he keeps failing, and he doesn't want to fail Sarah. And we saw it in the very beginning with episode 1, right, when he flips on the guard. But I think we're building to that big champagne cork explosion moment of him waking up in the Fireflies and being told, no, she's in surgery, and that's when he goes like ham, because he's all in on, she is my daughter now. I'm going to protect her. I'm going to do all these things for her. And I think they've shown their work to get to that conclusion in a way that I don't think this one's going to end. And I'm going to be like, Joel was the bad guy all along. Like, I think he's probably going to still lie to Ellie. But again, I just don't feel like this Ellie, you talked about, she wants to be the cure and she wants to help. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, she's trying to cure Sam. But like the way they're having the conversations of like, what would you do? I would go be a sheep rancher. I want to go to space, which is, obviously a great allusion to everything we know is coming. Hopefully that they follow it exactly. That's all great. But like, I felt like it was in the game, it felt more grim on that walk to meet the Fireflies in terms of like this is going to take a lot out of us, if not everything. Whereas this one, it feels like Ellie right now totally believes that she's going to give them a bit of blood and they're going to, put it into a Syndrilicker? That's not it. What am I?
Syndrilicker.
We've all fucking
Wow.
been there. You know what I'm
Sounds
talking
like a
about.
Final Fantasy VII
It's not
bad
right.
guy.
The thing you put it in, it spins around.
Blender?
Centrifugal force to move the blood. It doesn't matter. They're going to tell me. Centrifuge. Thank you, Lou.
Syndrilicker.
Hey, I knew I was wrong. You saw me do the wins.
That's a cool fake word, though.
Let's invent it right now. You and me, we invented Syndrilicker. And
What's the Webster definition for Syndrilicker?
Well, we'll make it up. It'll be
Use it
like
in a sentence.
we'll use it like we'll do what Theranos said they were going to do, but we'll do it.
You know who Theranos is?
There's a couple great documentary. There's a great documentary and then a great show on Hulu about. She's the woman from SF who like did the fake blood thing. She talk like this. It doesn't matter.
That was a deep cut blood joke. I love it. I appreciate it.
Read some goddamn news once in a while.
You know what? You know what, everybody? I want you to go to patreon.com/kindafunny so you can get the show ad free. But everyone else, here is a word from our sponsors. Shout out to HelloFresh for sponsoring this episode. Remember those New Year's goals you promised yourself that you'd stick to? Well, HelloFresh is here to help you eat better by delivering fresh ingredients and easy recipes right to your door, taking the hassle out of dinner time. Fast and fresh recipes, HelloFresh's latest line of meals featuring robust flavors and filling portions are ready in less than 15 minutes, so you can enjoy taste and quality done quick with recipes like falafel power bowls, seared steak and potatoes with béarnaise sauce, or Southwest pork and bean burritos. A ton of us here at Kinda Funny have been using HelloFresh for years. Kevin loves how easy it is to get Paula vegetarian options, while I just love how quick the fast and fresh recipes come together during a hectic day in the studio. Go to HelloFresh.com/KindaFunny65 and use code KindaFunny65 for 65% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/KindaFunny65 and use code KindaFunny65 for 65% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. So, boys, we talked a lot about Joel and Ellie, but we've been doing
And Theranos.
this and Theranos. This
The
entire
Dropout.
show,
That's the show. Watch it on Hulu.
I want to talk about Jackson.
We've been talking
There
about
for a lot of this episode, and like we saw it in the trailers, we saw it in the Next Time On. I did not expect them to go this hard. I think it was a great decision to change this from the games. The dam was always one of my least favorite sections of the game.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was such a better version of it. It ties it into the future so much better.
Yeah.
Kind of builds the foundation for things in a great way that like doesn't get in the way in the story. I think enhances it.
100%. Yeah, this was a nice Jackson from Last of Us Part 2 into Part 1, setting the stage, building out what we're going to be doing next season. Spoilers, of course.
I like being there in the winter also.
Yeah.
They shifted winter a bit earlier in the show, and it almost feels like a reference to beginning of Last of Us Part 2,
sure.
where that starts off winter and you have the snowball fight and all that stuff. So I like seeing in that season.
And it was also so great in terms of the juxtaposition of what you've seen for 5 episodes of the world being completely fucked, and then you get here and there are kids running around, and it's like, oh yeah, we haven't heard that in a long time, and they're singing Christmas carols on the street, and they're having a movie night, and they have diva cups, and they're doing all sorts. It's like, damn, yeah, this is a society that kept on, 7 years ago started and has been going since then. It's a great introduction, and I think a great contrast to what we're seeing outside the gates.
The set design of everything. I mean, obviously we're like extra familiar with it because of all of the marketing and the trailers and seeing the whatever you want to call it, mess hall, barnyard, whatever that thing is. Just seeing it so faithfully recreated, like all the moments and the horse, where you're just like, oh, this isn't gonna end well for this little
Shimmer,
horsey.
no!
They're talking about it being a baby, the new one. It's just like, oh, that's like, I love those little things because it's like, it doesn't matter, doesn't get in the way, but it just does for people to know. It's a cool moment.
Yeah, I love how much they build Maria's character here, right? Because that was a character I believe.
Tara from True Blood, come on.
There we go.
She popped up and it took me so long. I'm like, why do I know you? Oh, you're not talking with a Louisiana accent. Yeah, hell yeah, Tara, what up?
Yeah, it was a few scenes into getting to know her where I was like, oh, they're really building to Last of Us Part 2 here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Making this a character that we're gonna come back to in season 2, hopefully, and see like really lead Jackson and help lead the compound and stuff. And I really liked her relationship with Ellie. Right, her sitting down, doing her hair, like providing her with new clothes, doing all that stuff. I think they built that in a very sweet way.
And the conversation about the kids and the graves or whatever, and just being like, oh yeah, only one of them's mine, the other. It was like all of that I thought was just so good at connecting all the characters and like
100%.
like giving backstory that has been necessary for Ellie to know, but in a way that also bonded him or her and Maria as well. And I just thought like they just added so much depth to the Maria character that in the games I would say is forgettable. Like I don't know if you guys remember her much, but
no, I had to like
she was just
research
there.
again. I was like, man, because it's been a year since I played Last of Us Part 2, so I was like, oh yeah, let me go back and look at Maria, because like in the first game, Tommy introduces you to Maria.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really go that much further.
Oh, we don't get much with her. No.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's that thing, you guys get the group swap for a second and do that. But yeah, Maria isn't a real character, I would say, until part 2. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's her trying to stop Tommy, right?
In part 2, did she get pregnant ever? Did they have a kid?
I don't believe they did.
remember.
No, I don't think they did. No.
Love that. Fun little things
Sure.
of setting up. A baby in the first act, everybody.
Yeah. Well, and it's another one, too, of like, we're jumping around a lot, but there's so much great stuff in Jackson. Like, fucking adored when Joel's like, ma'am, could we have some just family time or whatever? And Tommy's like, no, she is family. And Ellie's like, congrats. And then there's like, say congrats, Joel. Congrats. And then the same thing, obviously, when he says Maria's pregnant, right? And he's just like, see, I think I'd be a good dad. I guess we'll find out. What the fuck's that mean? You know what I mean? Like, and that's a great confrontation for them too. Like, there's so much great character development / scenes here, I guess, really, that we're getting from these people.
And I love the idea to reinforce Jackson as a community that works in the post-apocalypse.
Sure.
That Tommy is like, hey, I've gotten married. Me and my wife are having a kid and all this stuff, right? And that is now a thing that's normalized to them. Where Joel's like, Joel just doesn't understand it, right? Because he comes from this life that's outside the compound. He comes from this life that he is the contractor and he's doing all this bullshit, right? And like, being face to face with that and not really understanding how to process it, I think was a really good kind of juxtaposition between where both of them are as characters. Again, like that's another one where I can't wait to see where they go with that in the second season.
Such a great line too, of just like communism. No, we're not communists. No, this is good. And Tommy just stops in his tracks as all the wheels click into place. It's so good.
Yeah. So I love Tommy as well.
Yeah,
he's great.
Great performance.
The great performance. And another one, like we were talking about it earlier, but I loved the conversation about Ellie and Maria talking about trust, and like the only way you can be betrayed is if you trust somebody.
Yeah.
And then having that scene immediately butt up against Pedro breaking down to Tommy and like trusting him. I thought was such a great thing. And
another great one too, right? Where she's infected and Tommy stands up to make a move and he's like, Tommy, like, she's immune. She's immune.
Yep,
right?
exactly. I love it that the show keeps doing the thing of like introducing a concept as good or bad and then flipping it immediately, where it's just like, the representation or reputation, bad reputation, whatever. It's like, it could be a good thing. It's like, could also be bad. Like immediately they always put that out there where it's like there's two sides to all this and it's just complicated at this point. Like it has to be because of the world they're in, and you have to not trust everybody, but you have to trust some people. Like you need somebody out there. Like you can't just be doing this alone. And I really, really thought they did that a great service in this episode to like build that theme that The Last of Us has always kind of had.
Yeah, I loved watching. So last night I watched with a friend who's never played through The Last of Us and didn't really know the story, and it's fun seeing the different reactions and different takes, because the scene where Joel tells Tommy that Ellie is infected, she was like, oh no, like, was that a mistake? Like, should he had not told her? And I was sitting there silent, like, I never thought about that angle. Yeah, like what would a Last of Us story look like if Tommy heard that and then later on was like, we got to get rid of this Ellie chick, right? But knowing it was still it's fun seeing both of our sides and our reactions to that. Another thing I want to shout out was the scene with the dog. I felt tense during that scene, where as like seeing the look on Joel's face, seeing Joel maybe about to have another panic attack, right? And then like Ellie's face, and then it transitioning into her just playing with the dog, I thought was just a fantastic way to play it.
And then him later talking about that scene from his perspective, like actually giving his inner thoughts and like
why he didn't do anything.
Him like on the brink of not tears, of just being like, I knew I needed to do something and I couldn't do something. It's like, oh my God, this like we've never seen this side of Joel. Like, because this side of Joel was put on us, the players, right? I feel like that's the difference between the game and this, is like the show needs to kind of like tell us things, because we, when we're playing the game, are thinking these things, like, fuck, we gotta get it, we gotta protect this, or we have to solve this problem, even though we actually aren't the ones in control of the story. We're just in control of making the story move forward.
Yeah, the entire conversation between Tommy and Joel, like, toward the end of it had me tearing up, because again, Pedro Pascal absolutely murdered it. But yeah, him listing off the things of being like, I am half deaf, I am this, I have like, I forget if he actually mentioned his panic attacks, but basically talking about how he's freezing up, right? And he doesn't want to lose this, right? Like, again, him saying that I keep having these dreams and I keep failing in my sleep. Again, such a powerful way to do it, and
we've seen it too. throughout the season already. We've seen him in his sleep, like
still
shaking,
mumbling in your sleep.
Yeah.
And connecting all those dots, I think, is just a really good way to do it.
And that was another great scene from Joel and Ellie, right? Of, him waking up, her having taken last shift.
Yeah.
You can't do things like this. Well, I can because I just did. And like explaining what she did and what he taught her. And like, again, really showing his knowledge trickling down, her paying attention and her being crafted into a little Joel.
Yeah. And I mean, then we get I'd say best example of Joel and Ellie just chilling, like Blessing was talking about in this episode, like towards the end where he's teaching her how to shoot and all that. And I just thought that was a great moment, like a calm before the storm. I mean, that whole bit was a calm before the storm. The beautiful vista shots of the horseback riding, and you just they just let it linger. Like we knew what we fucking had here. Like that shit was hot as hell.
Before we get too far out of Jackson, though, like actually, was it Dina?
100%.
Oh yeah.
And now will this actress be her in the future? That I'm a little bit more hesitant on, but
Craig, Neil, if you respect fucking continuity, it better be this person. All right, that's what I'm gonna say.
But yeah, it's
this woman
no Ant-Man daughter recast.
I swear to God, if I get 3 different fucking Dinas in The Last of Us, I won't stand for it.
The Last of Us is headed to the multiverse, Greg.
That's what happened with Ant-Man's daughter. There's been 3 cats.
Oh, you're right. Okay, yeah. So I forgot.
Shows your whole ass on that one, didn't you?
Do you think it's Dina?
Go home and read another fucking book, nerd.
I for sure think it's Dina. Again, to the actor thing, who knows if it's gonna be the same actor? But it's funny because when I saw that scene, I thought I was clever. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna pull that up during the show. Like I'm sure I'm gonna get these guys. I look at Twitter right after the episode, and like even Neil Druckmann is like tweeting about it. I was like, oh okay, well it's Dina. It's Dina.
Which is great. I love it. I think knowing the Dina we know from the games, this Dina didn't seem like her, and that's a silly thing to say based on 0.5 seconds of screen time. But even in those 0.5 seconds, it didn't feel like Dina. But she's younger. I'm sure they could change that.
Well, like 5 years before, 5 years separated. So yeah, I can see the idea of her being shy when she first sees Ellie and like being like, who the fuck is this girl who's chowing down on all our food? And then 5 years later, them having a conversation, joking about it.
Yeah. It's just great. Like the Jackson stuff I thought was incredibly special. It's so well done. And it just like sets the stage so well for season 2 and even for the end of this season, right?
Yeah.
For them to have a place to return to that in the first game we kind of just saw over a vista, but now watching the show for first time watchers, it's like this makes a lot more sense. And yeah, I watched it with Gia, who doesn't know, and God, it's so hard to be careful to not spoil things when she asks questions, and I'm like, what's the best way to answer this with like not setting you off this way or that way of like, oh yeah, they survived here, or like referencing something later. It's very difficult with this because I bet you that the majority of people out there think Joel is dead right now, which is so funny to me because we're all like, oh, he ain't dead. He ain't dead at all. But it's just like there's so many people that legit, this is like a Glenn in the Walking Dead thing where it's like, oh, they're dead. But are they? I don't know.
Wait, which line in the Walking Dead thing? You talking about him being under the dumpster?
The dumpster one, yeah.
God, I hated that so much. That frustrated me so much. But yeah, speaking of Jackson again, the face to face with Joel and Ellie, that was basically line for line with the game of her telling him everybody fucking leaves.
This is all they had to work. This is all they had to worry about. What to wear. What boys like.
Oh my God, yeah. I think that scene they recreated so well. I like the fact that Ellie didn't run away in this one. I think one, they saved time in the runtime, but then also
I got things to do. Yeah, HBO. Like, I got things.
I gotta go. But also I think this Ellie doesn't strike me as an Ellie that would be as reckless as in-game Ellie at this point. Like I kind of believe it from the game, but this Ellie feels a bit more responsible, if that makes sense.
She seems like she's listening more.
Yeah. Like I got respect for this Ellie. But yeah, I like the fact that she didn't run away. But I do like the fact that they were still able to capture every emotion in that scene without her even running away. Just from Joel being like, what's up, and her just letting him have it, right, and them having that back and forth of, like, I'm sorry about your daughter. I forget, Ellie, you're treading on mighty thin ice. I forget if it says that line. But
he doesn't say it in this one. It broke my heart. I love that line so much, but I was like, I guess that's a bit over the top. It said it was just don't.
Yeah, don't.
When he said don't.
And then he also says the line, you don't know what loss is.
You don't know what loss is, yeah.
Brilliant.
I really like the line, you're going to shoot this thing or you're going to get it pregnant.
That was great. Again, this Ellie's funny. I really enjoy what Bella Ramsey is doing for this character.
Trying to see, you guys have any other notes you want to bring up here?
There's a part when they get to university where Joel says this way, and it was the most video game in moment dialogue. I was like, I'm pretty sure I've heard Joel say this way like a million times in the game, so it's funny they had it in the show.
No.
And then, I can pinpoint where the next 3 episodes are going to go, right? Like next week's Left Behind. You imagine after that is going to be the David chapter, and then after that is Hospital.
Finale.
It's a question then with the Left Behind. Do you think that they play it like the game where we see her kind of in present time protecting Joel? Because it seems in the next time on, we don't see any of that. We see a lot more of the, what's it called, American Dreams?
No, Left Behind.
Left Behind.
No, but even the
comic book?
The
comic book
stuff.
was American Dreams. Yeah.
American Dreams. In the next time on, it seemed like we're getting some like stuff that Left Behind didn't cover, like the Ellie's time in Boston, right? Did it?
I mean, that's where Riley comes back for her, right? She comes back, gets her out of the thing, then they go out, they go to the mall. That's when she tells her she's going away as a fire.
We don't see like the day-to-day of like her, because like in the next time you see him like in gym class or whatever, like we don't see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that stuff.
Even American Dreams, I don't remember that being a huge part of it, but I haven't read American Dreams in a long time.
That's
and
my
also,
thing.
we know that, from the trailers for the season, like there's some sort of flashback of Ellie's mom that's being played by Ashley, and like
you'll get that next.
So I think that'll probably.
I think
be
you get that.
Behind.
I think you get that next, and I do not think you get. You do. I don't think they go. I don't think we get any modern thing. I think they want, if you're a viewer and you've never seen it before, you're gonna hang in your head of, holy shit,
Joel
is he
here?
dead?
Yeah.
We had an entire episode of Ellie's backstory, right? And then maybe at the very end, you get her going out and hunting on her own, and then it's credits, and you're like, is Joel really dead? And then we start just like the game did. But see, I don't like that. I think it's just all flashback next week. Then the 2 weeks from now is, hey, it starts the same way. We get to David 15, 20 minutes in, or probably 10 minutes in, right? And you have that conversation of just like, medicine. What does she need? Antibiotics, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and then we have the same feeling as a viewer we did as a gamer. Like, Joel's alive. Joel's still alive.
Yeah, I'm interested because I think that they have a lot of room to play with, just like the placing of things with Left Behind with all this, and I like that we're seeing a little bit more of the backstory from like the gym class and all that stuff. Something tells me that the Ashley Johnson thing isn't going to be in the Left Behind part, and that it's going to be in the like hospital part with Marlene. But totally could be wrong on that. I just thinking, because unless they change a lot, because like Ellie doesn't know her mom, so it's like it'd be interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know where they fit it
like
in this
that
one.
part of her story.
Yeah.
But my whole thought process on it is like, how much Marlene didn't know from taking in her that she was originally, when she took her and then gave her up to the orphanage, the school, right? Didn't know she was invulnerable to the infection, right? Yeah. So I feel like you would just have it be that you're going to open this episode with what actually happened. Like, it's going to be like these flashes of Ellie's life pre all of that, the gym class, sure, but before that, what happened with her mom and why did this happen? And then we'll know watching it of like, oh, Ashley Johnson got bit, gave birth, that's how she got around this, and yada, yada, the infection, blah, blah, blah. And then we go through this little timeline to get to the stuff with Riley and Left Behind. And
yeah, totally. I mean, that could be a cold open right there.
But
right?
I see it the other way too, just because you know through the recordings that you find in the hospital that Marlene has a difficulty as well with the decision with Ellie. And so I think that flashback of Ellie being born, maybe Marlene was there, and that kind of like feeding into giving her side of like, this is a difficult decision for her too, and Joel doesn't fully understand that, but we as the audience can fully understand that by bringing in that memory. But it'll be interesting to see how they do it.
Another question I got for you guys. Do you think we'll ever see the fungal network thing ever again? Or do you think that was just a Boston thing? The fungal network, of course, being like...
In this season, I doubt it, right? Because, like, why would you be doing it in any of the next sections? And maybe, David, you could do something with it there that, but I still feel like, no, probably not.
Yeah. So I like the idea of it so much, but as we get further away from Boston, I'm like, oh, maybe that was just maybe Boston was so fucked when it came to the infected.
No, because we see it, I mean, the intro, right? Like, that is the whole intro, is seeing that it's spread and like pulsate like the network. So I just don't think that there's much place for it in this season, but we're definitely coming back to that at some point. And speaking of that, I didn't do this, but I want to look at the screenshot of the map that they look at in the university, because it's interesting where all the Firefly spots are, and like there was a lot up in Seattle. Anytime we see a map, of course, I'm looking straight at Seattle. Like, what's going on up there? But yeah, I'm sure that there's like some cool Easter eggs and shit there going on. Any final thoughts?
I like this show, and I'm excited
show,
for more
everybody.
of it.
Good show.
I'm having a lot of fun watching this show.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, only 3 more weeks of fun.
Boo.
That means 3 more weeks of fun right here on youtube.com/kindafunny. Remember, we do these every single Monday live at 9 a.m. on youtube.com/kindafunny. You can watch them later on that same site. You can watch them on roosterteeth.com, or you can get them as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny Screencast. Until next time, endure and survive.